Endpoint log. A target for security-related events generated by host-based malware and intrusion detection agents. Input log. Network logs. A target for system and access events generated by a network appliance, such as a switch, wireless access point, or router. Network logs. Firewall logging. A target for event data related to access rules that have been configured for logging. Firewall logging. Packet analysis. Analysis of the headers and payload data of one or more frames in captured network traffic. Packet analysis. Metadata. Information stored or recorded as a property of an object, state of a system, or transaction. Metadata. Internet header. A record of the email servers involved in transferring an email message from a sender to a recipient. Internet header. Security information and event management. A solution that provides real-time or near real-time analysis of security alerts generated by network hardware and applications. Security information and event management, SIEM. Listener collector. A network appliance that gathers or receives log and or state data from other network systems. Listener collector. Log aggregation. Parsing information from multiple log and security event data sources so that it can be presented in a consistent and searchable format. Log aggregation. Correlation. A function of log analysis that links log and state data to identify a pattern that should be logged or alerted as an event. Correlation. Alert tuning. The process of adjusting detection and correlation rules to reduce incident of false positives and low priority alerts. Alert tuning. Machine learning, ML. A component of AI that enables a machine to develop strategies for solving a task given a labeled data set where features have been manually identified but without further explicit instructions. Machine learning. Network monitor. Auditing software that collects status and configuration information from network devices. Many products are based on the simple network management protocol. Network monitor. NetFlow. Cisco developed means of reporting network flow information to a structured database. NetFlow allows better understanding of IP traffic flows as used by different network applications and hosts. NetFlow. IP flow information export. Standards-based version of the NetFlow framework. IP flow information export. IPFIX. System monitor. Software that tracks the health of a computer's subsystems using metrics reported by system hardware or sensors. This provides an alerting service for faults such as high temperature, chassis intrusions, and so on. System monitor. Antivirus scan. Software capable of detecting and removing virus infections and in most cases other types of malware such as worms, Trojans, rootkits, adware, spyware, password crackers, network mappers, DOS tools, and so on. Antivirus scan. Malware. Software that serves a malicious purpose, typically installed without the user's consent or knowledge. Malware. Trojan. A malicious software program hidden within an innocuous seeming piece of software. Usually the Trojan is used to try to compromise the security of the target computer. Trojan. Potentially unwanted programs, PUPs. Software that cannot definitively be classed as malicious, but may not have been chosen by or wanted by the user. Potentially unwanted programs. Virus. Malicious code inserted into a executable file image. The malicious code is executed when the file is run and can deliver a payload, such as attempting to infect other files. Virus. Malicious process. A process executed without proper authorization from the system owner for the purpose of damaging or compromising the system. Malicious process. Worm. A type of malware that replicates between processes in system memory and can spread over client-server network connections. Worm. Shell code. A lightweight block of malicious code that exploits a software vulnerability to gain initial access to a victim system. Shell code. Advanced Persistent Threat, APT. Threat actors with the ability to craft novel exploits and techniques to obtain, maintain, and diversify unauthorized access to network systems over a long period. Advanced Persistent Threat. Adware. Software that records information about a PC and its user. Adware is used to describe software that the user has acknowledged can record information about their habits. Adware. Spyware. Software that records information about a PC and its users, often installed without the user's consent. Spyware. Keylogger. Malicious software or hardware that can record user keystrokes. Keylogger. Backdoor. A mechanism for gaining access to a computer that bypasses or subverts the normal method of authentication. Backdoor. Remote access Trojan. Malware that creates a backdoor remote administration channel to allow a threat actor to access and control the infected host. Remote access Trojan, RAT. Botnet. A group of hosts or devices that has been infected by a control program called a bot, which enables attackers to exploit the host to mount attacks. Botnet. Command and control, C2 or CNC. Infrastructure of hosts and services with which attackers direct, distribute, and control malware over botnets. Control and command. Covert channel. A type of attack that subverts network security systems and policies to transfer data without authorization or detection. Covert channel. Internet relay chat. A group communications protocol that enables users to chat, send private messages, and share files. Internet relay chat. Rootkit, class of malware that modifies system files, often at the kernel level, to conceal its presence. Rootkit. Ransomware, malware that tries to extort money from the victim by blocking normal operation of a computer and or encrypting the victim's files and demanding payment. Ransomware. Crypto mining, malware that hijacks computer resources to create cryptocurrency. Crypto mining. Logic bomb, a malicious program or script that is set to run under particular circumstances or in response to a defined event. Logic bomb. Indicator of compromise, IOC, a sign that an asset or network has been attacked or is currently under attack. Indicator of compromise. Resource consumption, a potential indicator of malicious activity where CPU, memory, storage, and/or network usage deviates from expected norms. Resource consumption. Blocked content, a potential indicator of malicious activity where audit logs show unauthorized attempts to read or copy a file or other data. Blocked content. Resource inaccessibility, a potential indicator of malicious activity where a file or service resource that should be available is inaccessible. Resource inaccessibility. Account lockout, policy that prevents access to an account under certain conditions, such as an excessive number of failed authentication attempts. Account lockout. Concurrent session usage, a potential indicator of malicious activity where an account has started multiple sessions on one or more hosts. Concurrent session usage. Impossible travel, a potential indicator of malicious activity where authentication attempts are made from different geographical locations within a short time frame. Impossible travel. Missing logs, a potential indicator of malicious activity where events or log files are deleted or tampered with. Missing logs. Out-of-cycle logging, a potential indicator of malicious activity where event dates or timestamps are not consistent. Out-of-cycle logging. Physical attack, an attack directed against cabling infrastructure, hardware devices, or the environment of the site facilities hosting a network. Physical attack. Environmental attack, a physical threat directed against power, cooling, or fire suppression systems. Environmental attack. Radio frequency ID, a means of encoding information into passive tags, which can be energized and read by radio waves from a reader device. Radio frequency ID. Card cloning, making a copy of a contactless access card. Card cloning. Skimming, making a duplicate of a contactless access card by copying its access token and programming a new card with the same data. Skimming. Network attack, an attack directed against cabled and or wireless network infrastructure, including reconnaissance, denial of service, credential harvesting, on-path privilege escalation, and data exfiltration. Network attack. Reconnaissance. The actions taken to gather information about an individual or organization's computer systems and software. This typically involves collecting information such as types of systems and software used, user account information, data types, and network configuration. Reconnaissance. Credential harvesting. Social engineering techniques for gathering valid credentials to use to gain unauthorized access. Credential harvesting. Lateral movement. The process by which an attacker is able to move from one part of the computing environment to another. Lateral movement. Pivoting. When an attacker uses a compromised host as a platform from which to spread an attack to other points in the network. Pivoting. Denial of service. Any type of physical application or network attack that affects the availability of a managed resource. Denial of service. Distributed DOS. An attack that involves the use of infected internet-connected computers and devices to disrupt the normal flow of traffic of a server or service by overwhelming the target with traffic. Distributed DOS. SNY flood attack. A DOS attack where the attacker sends numerous SNY requests to a target server, hoping to consume enough resources to prevent the transfer of legitimate traffic. SNY flood attack. Distributed reflected DOS. A malicious request to a legitimate server is created and sent as a link to the victim, so that a server-side flaw causes the malicious component to run on the target's browser. Distributed reflected DOS. Amplification attack. A network-based attack where the attacker dramatically increases the bandwidth sent to a victim during a DOS attack by implementing an amplification factor. Amplification attack. On-path attack. An attack where the threat actor makes an independent connection between two victims and is able to read and possibly modify traffic. On-path attack. Address resolution protocol. Broadcast mechanism by which the hardware MAC address of an interface is matched to an IP address on a local network segment. Address resolution protocol. ARP poisoning. A network-based attack where an attacker with access to the target local network segment redirects an IP address to the MAC address of a computer that is not the intended recipient. This can be used to perform a variety of attacks, including DOS spoofing and on-path. ARP poisoning. DNS poisoning. An attack where a threat actor injects false resource records into a client or server cache to redirect a domain name to an IP address of the attacker's choosing. DNS poisoning. Evil twin. A wireless access point that deceives users into believing that it is a legitimate network access point. Evil twin. Password attack. Any attack where the attacker tries to gain unauthorized access to and use of passwords. Password attack. Brute force attack. A type of password attack where an attacker uses an application to exhaustively try every possible alphanumeric combination to crack encrypted passwords. Brute force attack. Dictionary attack. A type of password attack that compares encrypted passwords against a predetermined list of possible password values. Dictionary attack. Hybrid password attack. An attack that uses multiple attack methods including dictionary, rainbow table, and brute force attacks when trying to crack a password. Hybrid password attack. Password spraying. A brute force attack in which multiple users' accounts are tested with a dictionary of common passwords. Password spraying. Credential replay. An attack that uses a captured authentication token to start an unauthorized session without having to discover the plaintext password for an account. Credential replay. Downgrade attack. A cryptographic attack where the attacker exploits the need for backward compatibility to force a computer system to abandon the use of encrypted messages in favor of plain text messages. Downgrade attack. Collision. In cryptography, the act of two different plain text inputs producing the same exact ciphertext output. Collision. Birthday attack. A type of password attack that exploits weaknesses in the mathematical algorithms used to encrypt passwords in order to take advantage of the probability of different passwords inputs producing the same encrypted output. Birthday attack. Application attack. An attack directed against a coding implementation or platform vulnerability in operating systems or application software. Application attack. Arbitrary code execution. A vulnerability that allows an attacker to run their own code or a model that exploits such a vulnerability. Arbitrary code execution. Remote code execution. A vulnerability that allows an attacker to transmit code from a remote host for execution on a target host or a module that exploits such a vulnerability. Remote code execution. Privilege escalation. The practice of exploiting flaws in an operating system or other application to gain a greater level of access than was intended for the user or application. Privilege escalation. Vertical privilege escalation. When an attacker can perform functions that are normally assigned to users in higher roles and often explicitly denied to the attacker. Vertical privilege escalation. Horizontal privilege escalation. When a user accesses or modifies specific resources that they are not entitled to. Horizontal privilege escalation. Replay attack. An attack where the attacker intercepts some authentication data and reuses it to try to reestablish a session. Replay attack. Forgery attack. An attack that exploits weak authentication to perform a request via a hijacked session. Forgery attack. Cross-site request forgery. A malicious script hosted on the attacker's site that can exploit a session started on another site in the same browser. Cross-site request forgery. Server-side request forgery. An attack where an attacker takes advantage of the trust established between the server and the resources it can access, including itself. Server-side request forgery. Server side. In a web application, input data that is executed or validated as part of a script or process running on the server. Server side. Injection attack. An attack that exploits weak request handling or input validation to run arbitrary code in a client browser or on a server. Injection attack. Extensible markup language. A system for structuring documents so that they are human and machine readable. Information within the document is placed within tags, which describe how information within the document is structured. Extensible markup language. Directory traversal. An application attack that allows access to commands, files, and directories that may or may not be connected to the web document root directory. Directory traversal. Canonicalization attack. An attack method where input characters are encoded in such a way as to evade vulnerable input validation measures. Canalization attack. Command injection, where a threat actor is able to execute arbitrary shell commands on a host via a vulnerable web application. Command injection. Uniform resource locator. An application-level addressing scheme for TCP/IP allowing for human-readable resource addressing. Uniform Resource Locator, URL. Percent encoding. A mechanism for encoding characters as hexadecimal values delimited by percentage signs. Percent encoding. Policies. A strictly enforceable rule set that determines how a task should be completed. Policies. Acceptable use policy. A policy that governs employees' use of company equipment and internet services. ISPs may also apply UAPs to their customers. Access Use Policy, AUP. Information security policies. A document or series of documents that are backed by senior management and that detail requirements for protecting technology and information assets from threats and misuse. Information security policies. Business continuity. A collection of processes that enable an organization to maintain normal business operations in the face of some adverse event. Business continuity. Disaster recovery. A documented and resourced plan showing actions and responsibilities to be used in response to critical incidents. Disaster recovery. Software development life cycle. The processes of planning, analysis, design, implementation, and maintenance that often govern software and systems development. Software development life cycle.